I'm going to be 65 this fall, and the closer I get to retirement age, the more convinced I am that most people are asking the wrong question about their retirement plan. The closer I get to that retirement age, the more convinced I am that many of the things that we were taught about retirement income back in the day simply don't work the way they used to anymore. Now, I know that that's a bold statement, but after spending more than 20 years building a real estate business and planning my own retirement, I've discovered that some of the old truths we relied on aren't holding up anymore. And that realization changed everything for me. See, 20 years ago, I wasn't worried about retirement. To be honest with you, I thought that I'd probably work forever. Not because I had to, but because I enjoyed it. I liked building businesses, I liked solving problems, and I liked helping people. And like a lot of entrepreneurs, I figured I'd always have something going on. Retirement felt like something that happened to other people. So I followed what I thought was a pretty smart plan. I built a business, I bought real estate, I created equity, paid off debt, built wealth. Hey, pretty standard stuff, right? For a long time, I believed I was doing exactly what I should be doing. But then something happened. Actually, it wasn't one thing. It was a series of little things that eventually forced me to look at my financial numbers a lot differently. Because back in August of 2022, I started paying closer attention to what was really happening inside my real estate business. Not what I hoped was happening, not what I wanted to believe was happening, but what was actually happening. And here's what I discovered. With all the real estate that I owned, most months the rental income wasn't enough to cover all the expenses. So I'd be dipping into my line of credit to pay the bills. And eventually I'd have to sell a property or two to pay down that line of credit, get caught up. And then the cycle started repeating itself. Now, at first, that doesn't seem like a huge problem. Lots of investors do it, right? But then I started looking at the bigger picture. And that one day it hit me. If I kept repeating this cycle year after year, eventually every property was going to be gone. The very thing that I thought was funding my retirement was slowly being swallowed to support itself. And for me, that math was terrifying. If I continued down that same road, I was going to end up 81 years old with no real estate left and trying to survive over a pittance of pensions and some retirement savings. Now think about that for a minute. 20 years of effort. Honestly, by the end of that time, it would have been more like 30 years. And all that risk and all that stress and potentially very little left at the end. And believe me, that was my wake-up call. And honestly, maybe your numbers are going to be different. Maybe you don't own rental properties. Maybe your retirement is more tied to investments. Maybe it's tied to a pension. Maybe it is just tied to Social Security or CPP. But I think a lot more people are asking that very same question. What if what I built isn't enough? And I think that's becoming more common than people want to admit because the world has changed. The cost of living's changed, healthcare's changed, travel's changed, housing has changed. Everything costs more. And yet a lot of retirement planning still feels like it's working from assumptions that we all made 20, 30 years ago, or maybe more. And now don't misunderstand me here. I'm not saying that savings is bad. I'm not saying investment is bad. And I'm certainly not saying that real estate is bad. Believe me, I do still own a lot of real estate. I still believe all those things matter. But here's what I started realizing. Net worth and your freedom are not the same thing. You can have wealth on paper and you can still worry about cash flow. And that was one of the biggest lessons I learned. Cash flow matters. Income matters a lot. Because the lifestyle I wanted wasn't just about surviving retirement. I didn't spend my whole life working just so I could spend my retirement clipping coupons and watching every penny. I had dreams. I wanted flying adventures. I wanted exotic travel. I wanted time with my kids and my grandkids. I wanted time with my family. I wanted options. I wanted experience. I wanted freedom. And freedom requires income, not just assets. And that's when my entire perspective started changing. Instead of asking, how much do I need to retire? I started asking, how much income do I need to create freedom? And those are two very different questions. And maybe that's the biggest lesson I've learned through all of this. The goal was never retirement, at least not the retirement the way most people define it. I never dreamed about sitting around or doing less. I dreamed about having more freedom, more adventures, more travel, more time with my family, more chances to do the things that make me feel alive. And if you look around me here, you'll see, for me, that's aviation, that's flying. There's just something about getting up in the air in an airplane that really reminds you how big the world really is. And somewhere along the way, I realized something. The real risk wasn't running out of money. No, the real risk was slowly downsizing my dreams because I believed there weren't any other options. And that's what scared me. Not the working, not the learning something new, not the adapting. What really scared me was sitting in my rocker with regrets that I didn't live my life to the fullest just because I was worried about money. And that's why I started looking for alternatives. That's why I started exploring digital income streams. That's why I was willing to learn new skills at this stage of my life. Because I wasn't trying to retire from life. I was trying to create more of it. Now, today, I look at my retirement very differently than I did a few years ago. Retirement isn't about having enough money to stop working. It's about having enough freedom to spend your life on the people, the experiences, and the adventures that matter the most. And I refuse to spend the last third of my life downsizing my dreams because the old retirement playbook no longer works the way it once did. Now, on that note, I'd love to hear from you. When you picture your ideal retirement, what's the one thing that you never want to give up? Maybe it's travel, maybe it's family time, maybe it's a hobby that you're just absolutely passionate about. Maybe it's something you've dreamed of doing your entire life. Drop it in the comments below and let me know. I'd love to hear from you, and I read and respond to every comment. But I really think that this is the conversation that we should be having now. Not how little we can live on, but how we can continue to live full, vibrant lives full of adventure. And if you'd like to see the specific path that I chose and how I'm creating new income streams online today, hey, make sure you watch my next video where I will show you exactly what I discovered, what worked, what didn't, and why I believe it's one of the most overlooked opportunities for folks our age. So go check it out now, and I'll see you on the next video.